Good morning everyone, Caitlin here from Enso Theater Ensemble, and for today's daily mindfulness I want to share with you a very sweet, very quick mindfulness practice that you can do with whatever you're drinking first in the morning. So whether it's your cup of coffee or tea, or maybe it's a smoothie or a glass of water, this is a really lovely way to just check in and ground in really quickly and then move on with the rest of your day. I love it because I can sort of insert it throughout my day at various points, and I also love it because it's a really good reminder of where our food and drink comes from. So I am going to imagine that you are starting this practice in your kitchen at the beginning of your day or wherever you prepare your first drink. So we are not going to light our candle today like we usually do. We're just going to hop right into it. So I'm going to imagine that you are going ahead and creating your drink. So, voila! You have made your drink. And now in these moments, as you're about to take your first sip, we are going to create the mindfulness practice. And by the way, when I first started doing this is a practice that I learned at Peace in Schools. When I first started doing this, I would forget. Let's be real. I still forget. So one of the things that I like to do when I really want to try to remember, like my first sip is going to be mindful, is I'll take a post-it note and just write like first sip, mindfulness, or whatever, and then stick it on my cabinet where all my mugs are. You might put it on your coffee maker, wherever it makes sense for you, that you'll see it first thing in the morning and go, oh yeah, I want to try this practice. So the very first thing you're going to do is you are going to cup your mug or cup or whatever you have in both hands, and I invite you to close your eyes or cast them downward and just to feel both the weight of the mug and its contents in your hand and whatever temperature. So mine is warm, mine is nice and cozy against my fingers, so I'm just paying attention to the sensation on my fingers, paying attention to which parts of my fingers are actually touching the mug and which parts are not, and just noticing. No judgment, just noticing. I might take a little breath here. And then I'm going to blink open my eyes and I'm going to take a look inside my mug and I'm going to see the contents, and I'm going to think about the journey that they took in order to get here in my mug. So I have a cup of tea. So for me, I'm thinking about where the tea leaves came from and who had to harvest them. And there's a whole process to making black tea. So there was an oxidation process, and there was a different person in charge of each step, likely. And then those tea leaves had to travel a really, really, really long way to get to me. Yes. I was just thinking of the type of tea I had, and I was like, are they? Yes. Yes, they had to travel a long way to get to me. And then I'm also going to think about the other ingredients in my cup. So you may just have straight up tea or coffee, but I have a little bit of honey, and I have a little bit of almond milk in mine. So I just like to think about, like, my honey happens to be local, so I do know that it was a slightly shorter journey. But I still want to think about the people that were involved with, like, raising those bees and harvesting that honey and then, you know, processing it and getting it to a store shelf where I happen to be upon it and pull it down, and here I am. And I'm just going to have a tiny moment of gratitude for all of the many components that had to happen to create this cup of tea. Beautiful. And then when you feel like you've touched in with those elements, we're going to take a sip. And as you take a sip, I invite you to just hold it in your mouth just a tiny bit longer than you would normally, so that you actually taste it. I don't know about you, but I've definitely noticed that since a cup of tea is like such a regular thing in my life, I have many mornings where I just don't even taste it. It's just consumed. It just disappears down the gullet. So I invite you to actually feel the flavor on your tongue, on the top of your mouth, maybe even against your teeth if you can sort of feel that, it doesn't matter. You're just going to pay attention to the sensation of the liquid inside your mouth, how it feels, how it tastes, and then you're going to swallow, and just pay attention to the swallowing process as well. And then we'll take a nice big deep breath and we will move on with our days. So here we go. Ready? Tea is so good, you guys. Lovely. Beautiful. And now you just take a deep breath and move on with the rest of your day. And maybe the rest of your tea is just consumed. You know, it's okay. I definitely don't have the time or the bandwidth yet to sit and like very slowly consume my meals and my tea in this mindful way, even though that might be a better option for me than scarfing things down. But it's also not realistic in terms of my life and the other things that I would like to do and that are important to me. So give yourself the gift of one sip, one mindful sip that really brings you joy, that reminds you how extraordinary it is that this is just available to us. And then let that go, right? Just that one sip, it will start to infuse your day with other bits and pieces of mindfulness. I promise you, if you practice this for a week where, you know, every day that week your first sip is mindful, I promise you'll have other realizations throughout the week in other areas of your life where you're like, oh, like I never even considered that, never even thought about that. So I hope you give it a go. Let me know if you do. And just to let you know, if you loved this, if you were excited about this, or you want to know more, I recently did an interview with Stephanie Selinger, who is a wonderful, amazing nutritionist, and we had a conversation about mindful eating and drinking while we're in quarantine, and how to do that, and how much we should be busting ourselves up for our bad snacking habits. And we also talked about immune boosting and what you should be trying to eat right now if you're worried about boosting your immune system. It was an amazing conversation. It was really, really great. So I'll be releasing that tomorrow or the next day. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you tomorrow.